Scotty Taylor, live in Virginia Beach. Hey, Scott.
Good morning, John. How are you doing out there? It's pretty damn early. I'm glad you got some coffee.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was the big challenge. And then trying to figure out the clock thing. I mean, it's easy, right? It's only 3 hours, but being sure that I got up on time and how I was going to get over there. And then my thing was, from my hotel, it's about 5 miles, about 12 minutes away. So it was like, well, I got to get a taxi at like 2 a.m. and didn't even have them out here. So, we had to set all that up. But it's all good. We're out here. Listen, Delegate Taylor, nobody has a more distinguished service record in the military than Scott Taylor, former Navy SEAL. This Gary McCollum thing that broke yesterday, where McCollum basically claiming on his resume, in his ad material on his website, claiming that he's an active Army Reserve major. And now we find out, Scott, that the guy got discharged in 2001. Now, if he was discharged a few months ago, I could say, okay, maybe he didn't get the thing in the mail. This guy got discharged in 2001, and now he's saying, oh, he had no idea. What do you make of this?
Well, let me first say thanks for the compliment, but I'm just lucky and honored to be able to serve with some of the best people that I'll ever know. And let me also say that, look, Gary's a known guy in the community. He's been successful in business. He had he did serve in the Army, and honorably, and that should be commended. And with anybody that serves, no matter what you do in the military,
yes.
Whether you're on the tip of the spear or you're a mechanic, we all play a part. But the problem is, and like you said, we just have these questions in our back of our head. Hey, this guy's saying he's a major in the reserves currently, and he served on active duty in the early '80s. Like, how is that possible that he could be a reservist and at that only have achieved that rank and still be in? So once it came out basically that he had been discharged, which was confirmed by the Virginian pilot and confirmed by Wavy News as well too, from the Army itself. And I don't think that when Andy Fox, the reporter from Wavy, went and saw him yesterday morning, I don't think that McCollum understood or knew that the gig was up. You know what I mean? And and he said on camera that I'm in the reserves. I'm a major in the reserves, and it's about leadership and so on. But that of course that came out right after that with the Virginian pilot. That in fact the Army had confirmed that he had been discharged. And let me say this: at a time of war, and with Afghanistan and Iraq going on, and you're going out there currying favor, whether it's in business or politics, because this has been on his resume for a while. Cox had it on his bio. Cox Cable is where he works in business, and now politically on his literature. But to curry favor on the backs of the people who are actually out there in war, reservists as well too, been called up. It's absurd to think that a U.S. Army officer would not know that he was discharged and not in the reserves for 14 years. I mean, either one, you knew it and you're trying to curry favor on the backs of those folks that were serving, or two, you got to be the most incompetent U.S. Army officer in the nation. So I think it's the first thing, and it's sad because, like I said, he did serve honorably, and that's enough. But we find, and you know this, we find people who say they were SEALs all the time, and some of them had served, and they had served honorably in different positions. But I don't know why. It's an unforced error, but it's one that is certainly not going to play in the 7th Senate District, especially in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, where there are a plethora of veterans, and all of them will understand that this is a lie.
Well, look, Scott, this Gary McCollum candidate had ample opportunity to look what was in his literature. He knew he was not an active Army rager. What's dumbfounding to me is the fact that every time one of these candidates embellishes their resume, especially to the extent when you're talking about your military background that it's not true, they get nailed. So there's a level of arrogance that goes with this. That, like, I can just say or do whatever I please, and that's it. I'm the authority, and I'll say it, and everybody else can go pound sand. But don't you think this speaks to this guy's judgment and integrity that he would say something of this magnitude that simply is not true?
I think it's huge. I mean, I just got to, I talked to a couple different, Army officers that I know, one Special Forces, and then the other one I talked to yesterday, who had the same thing, where he had been discharged from the inactive reserve. And he even said, listen, you get paperwork, it tells you instructions, what you do with your military ID, all those things. It's not a secret that you're getting discharged. To not know that is ridiculous. And the colonel and the Special Forces had some more heated words about it. And then I just got a text from a SEAL officer this morning, who actually just texted me just a second ago, but he was like, he said I had sent him the article, and he was like, that is BS. He's like, that guy needs to resign right now, because he is not fit to be able to serve in the Senate after having lied about it. That would be complete BS that he didn't know that he was discharged. And it's sad is what it is. It really is, but it's not just sad, it's also disgusting. Like I said, I mean, you have someone going around saying that they're in the reserves for 14 years during war, and there are literally thousands of reservists who are being called up to go to war. I mean, it's just insane. And like I said, in this area, especially in this area, when somebody's embellishing their record and it's found out to be so, people are going to be pissed. People are going to be pissed. And they're not, stolen valor is a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's certainly a big deal around here, especially when you're seeing, in this area, people have watched thousands go to war, and some of them have not come back. It's a big deal. It's very serious.
Stolen valor, Scott. I think that's a pretty powerful thing. I was also very disappointed in the way he responded to this. We just had Patrick Wilson on from the Virginian pilot, Scott Taylor, who broke the story. You can read it. Go to pilotonline.com. And what Patrick said is, he called Molly Rittner, his campaign manager, McCollum's campaign manager, who was a very nice young lady, by the way. I want to say that. Very nice young lady, very talented and smart. And even though I don't think she's going to win this campaign, she's got undue talent. But it took them 5 hours to get back to him. I mean, if you're taking 5 hours to get back to somebody on a major discrepancy in what you're saying your military status is, something's not right. If he
something's not right, John. And you're coming up, and this is what pisses me off, because I know Gary, and I like him, and like I said, his record was already good enough. It was already good enough, for taking away all those things, in terms of having served honorably and everything. And I remember yesterday when they couldn't hear, they weren't texting him back. They weren't responding to Andy Fox for hours. And then they put out this press release that says, Gary McCollum was informed that he, misinterpreted his military classification. Well, that pisses me off, because it's even worse. It's even worse. And like you said, it's trying to come up with some sort of words to respond to a lie. And, it's very unfortunate, but it's like I said, stolen valor is a big deal, and it's very serious.
They knew they were lying. That's why they had to take 5 hours to spin the thing. I'm going to go to word from our sponsors.
If you came up to me and you're like, hey, there's a question in your service record, when you were discharged, or if you were a SEAL or whatever, I'd send it right over to you. What are you talking about? Here it is. Boom. Done.
Or if you legitimately didn't know for some reason, you'd be saying, well, what the heck are you talking about? Tell me more. They knew immediately what they were talking about, and that's why they took 5 hours. They had to craft a response. The whole thing stinks to high heaven.
John, I have my DD2. I got my DD2 214 right on my computer in a PDF. If you had any question, I can give you dates. I can give you times. I can send it to you. To not know your own service record is BS. And like I said, they're not going to take kindly to it.
He knew. House of Delegates member, former Navy SEAL Scott Taylor, Republican, Virginia Beach, 85th District, talking about the Frank Wagner versus Gary McCollum race. By the way, Frank's going to be with us in about 10 minutes. I got 2 minutes, Scott, so I'm going to be real quick here. One other thing that bothers me about this campaign is that every time I talk to Gary McCollum, he's telling me, and I've asked him on my show, he said no, and he says, That's not my audience. And I asked, well, what is your audience? And apparently their whole strategy is just to get out the black vote and mirror what Obama did in that district. And it's almost like race baiting to me. And there's something about this whole plan that he has that I find to be very distasteful. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know what his plan is, but if that's what he's saying, that he's just strictly trying to push up African American turnout in the district, it's just a loser. It's just silly. I mean, I'm telling you right now, it's an off-year election. It's a lot of people aren't going to be coming out in the district, and I think he's going to lose big, to be honest with you. And quite frankly, after what has just come out, listen, John, my district is, as you know, completely inside of Frank Wagner's district. So I can tell you right now that my constituents, by and large, are going to be very, very turned off, and some of them Democrats, by what just happened. So I think the strategy is a loser, and I think Frank's going to win big, and certainly after what just happened. I can tell you right now, and as you know, I door knock, I walk thousands of doors. Every other house is a veteran, and they're going to know their service record, and they're going to be pissed, and they're not going to vote for him.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. We want to thank House of Delegates member and former Navy SEAL Scott Taylor for being with us. Virginia Beach, Republican, represents the 85th District. And, Scott, I got to take off. I couldn't put my finger on this. I said a couple times I just couldn't find a way to get comfortable with this guy. I think he's a creep.